Okay, our third inductee tonight, I have actually didn't have the pleasure of shooting with or shooting against. Probably a good thing I didn't shoot against. He had stopped shooting before I had started. I was told stories. I've read what you accomplished. It's truly amazing. Once again, for shooting prowess, we'd like to induct Mr. Wayne Voges. Rocky, you come up.
Good evening. All the previous inductees, really nice and sweet. As you can imagine, this might be a little bit different. Before I start on Wayne, I just wanted to make a few observations. I had a few observations to share with you from past awards banquets. Present company is excluded, of course. But one of the things I wanted to point out, and I always see things kind of from a different perspective, is that any time one of the presenters or recipients gets up and says that they promise this will not be long, don't believe it. And you know, when you got a 9 o'clock flight the next morning, it even seems much longer. And I know, again, not talking about anybody at these tables, maybe it's the next table over from you in past years, some of these guys that get up and do these presentations, I'm a firm believer that, you know, even a Jehovah's Witness would say, gee, I'd like to stay and talk a little bit more, but I got to get going, you know. You talk about the Lazarus effect. You know, some of these guys, if you went by their casket and waved a microphone in front of it, they'd jump up and give a long speech. Anyway, back to Wayne here. Many years ago, I wrote an article about you never know in Texas when somebody is going to walk in out of the sticks and start kicking butt on the skeet field. And when I wrote that article, I had Wayne Voges in mind. And certainly you can add a caveat to that. We have lately a lot of people that not only walk in out of the sticks, but move into Texas. And but with Wayne, I think a lot of you know, some of you young folks don't, you know, there always seems to be a turnover in skeet, but he really dominated shooting in the late 90s. He was the one to be reckoned with. He had many awards. I have kind of a Cliff Notes version, which is what the board and the Hall of Fame use these days, but he's still very impressive. He won many shoots. Couldn't be here all night, violate my rule here. But he has like 4 open All-American team selections. He has 6 state titles, including 2 high overall titles that he won in '98 with a 399, and in 2000 he ran a 5-by, which was very impressive. All the rest were gun champions. He was on the open all-state team 5 times, of which one of them was captain of that all-state team, and anybody in here can tell you Robert Paxton has somewhat dominated that, and for anybody to win that, it's quite a feat. He also, one of the things I really remember is in his world shooting of events, he was in a shoot-off for the 410 championship with many shooters that ran 100, but it boiled down to Wayne Mays and Wayne Voges. And after one round, I think you saw this in the program, they were the only 2 standing, and it went 7 boxes before that was determined. It was amazing, as they would say, and many of you old guys know what I mean by that adjective. And That was one of Wayne's heroes early on, certainly mine and a lot of other people in here, was Wayne Mays, and we miss him in his passing of this a couple of weeks ago. Now, you know, the amazing thing about Wayne is, you know, he was a sub-junior in '92, and he started winning all this stuff in '96 to 2000. Just an amazing accomplishment there. Now, anytime that you get me to be a presenter, you know, you take a risk. So, you know, I'm going to tell some stories, and I have 3 stories that I wanted to pass on before I let Wayne come up here. The first story, I call it "Take 2 boxes to the shoot-off." Years ago, he was a junior shooter. We were up at the Marble Falls Gun Club, which doesn't exist anymore, but he was up there with his mentor and coach, Hal Myers, who really did a lot of work with him early on, and it certainly paid off. But Carl Hinch and I were sitting on a bench next to Wayne and Hal, and Hal was giving him some advice. He was telling him, look, when they call you up for this shoot-off, I want you to go up there and take 2 boxes of shells with you. He wants you to put one up on the gun rack, open the other box, dump it in your bag. That's just to let everybody know what your intentions are. And of course, Carl and I were looking at each other like, oh man. So anyway, obviously, you know what happened. A little later, they called me for a shoot-off, and my buddy Carl gets up, comes over, and he hands me 2 shells. He says, all right, take them up there, throw them in your bag, and let everybody know what your intentions are. Actually, I was telling this story to somebody a while ago, and they said, yeah, but with Wayne, he needed to take a flat up there lately in the later part of his career. Okay, the next one, next story about Wayne. These people tell me stories. His dad told me this in 1996, if you can imagine. But I call it riding shotgun. Wayne, Dennis's dad over here, took him to the Junior World, and it was out in California. And of course, being country folk that they are, they made a wrong turn off the freeway, and they got into ghetto land, and actually they narrowly escaped. They sped out of there, and it really spooked the country folk there. They didn't, you can imagine. So the next day before they went to the gun club, Dennis got Wayne and told him, okay, put your shotgun together, put your shell bag on, get in the front seat with me. Now, can you imagine when they pulled up to this gun club, all those other kids looking over there saying, man, when they say in Texas you're riding shotgun, they mean it. Okay, the third and last story about Wayne. Got to use a prop here. See if I still have it. The toothbrush story. Okay. Wayne, of course, I always pick out these young guys in those early days to be my 2-man team partner to carry me along. And we were going out to one of the first trips we made was out to the Masters, early Masters out there in Savannah. And we decided, heck, we're going to save money like everybody does, get a motel room together, rent a car together, this kind of thing. Well, you really get to know somebody when you're out there 3 or 4 days at a shoot like this. And so one of the things that was happening out there is we'd be getting in the car, loading our stuff, getting ready to go to the gun club, and Wayne, oh, no, I got to go back. He'd run back in the motel room, and he'd come out with his toothbrush, put it in his pocket. So I watched this for a couple of times, and I said, what in the world is going on? So I said, Wayne, what is with this toothbrush thing? Well, he kind of had a class warfare, a little paranoia thing. And he told me, he said, well, I've got friends of mine, and they had a hidden camera, and they left it in their motel room. And when they left, came back, they found that the maids were in there just working over cleaning the commodes with their toothbrushes, you know. And I said, Wayne, come on. They're not doing that, you know. Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, yeah, they do. You know, I got to take this toothbrush with me. Well, you know he was rooming with the wrong guy because you know where this is going. A day, 2 days, actually almost the last day before we left, you know, we went to the old continental breakfast. I don't know what they were serving, yogurt and who knows what else. But we go down there, and I realized that he didn't take his toothbrush. So I said, I got to go back to the room, and slip back in there. And put the toothbrush right on top of the commode. See? Anyway, we come back, we're going to go out to the gun club, and he remembers, and he runs in there. Do you remember the old Yosemite Sam cartoons when, when he blow his stack? I was sitting out in the car, and he comes out the door, and he was just absolutely livid. And he was just shaking that thing. I told you, and I said, no. I kept it going as long as I could, even though when I told him, he still didn't believe it. He thought I was covering up for the maids. But anyway, there's a lot goes into making the Hall of Fame, having a good time with your buddies and whatnot, shooting well. There's a sportsmanship contingent, basically, you're supposed to follow. And looking back, I think a lot of us, me included, I guess we've done some things we're not real proud of sometimes on the skeet field or in the boardroom or wherever. But looking back on Wayne, I could not remember ever a disparaging word that he said or anybody said about him. He's one of the nicest, politest, quietest young men you've ever seen. When he kicks your butt in a shoot-off, he comes up and smiles. I didn't like it, but that was the way he was. He was one of the greatest guys out there, and I want to welcome him to the Hall of Fame, one of the best we've ever had. Wayne Voges.
Thank you, Rocky, for such a colorful introduction. First, I'd like to congratulate all the other nominees tonight, all the buckles, the state teams. Then I'd like to thank my mom and dad, Dennis and Nan Voges. My dad spent a lot of time, took a lot of time off work, spent a lot of money hauling me around, and the financial support was, I guess, the biggest thing. I wouldn't have made it very far on my allowance. I appreciate that. Second, I'd like to thank my coach, Hal and Betty Myers. Both of them were in the Hall of Fame. Both of them had numerous world titles for skeet, not only skeet, but trap and live pigeons. Hal was a very no-nonsense type shooter, very serious on the field. No high fives, no anything like that. Betty, on the other hand, was real easygoing, and she'd always say, "Well, don't worry about what he just said, but be sure and do it." I'm really disappointed they couldn't be here with us tonight, be sitting at the table to enjoy this and share this honor with me. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, and I'd like to thank the TSSA board for approving the nomination. And I'd also like to thank Rocky and Miss Ellen for making a case for me when I wasn't there. It's been a long time, and I appreciate you not forgetting about me after all this time. Lastly, I'd like to thank all the skeet shooters along the way from the practice fields to the actual shoots. I started to write down some names, but there were just too many good things to say about too many good people, and there aren't too many days that go by that I don't think about skeet anymore. It's a very competitive family. Always offering something, be it shells or a place to stay or just support along the way when you had a bad day. Over the years, I've done a lot of things, and I still haven't come across another group of people that meant this much and was so supportive along the way. When I started out, not everyone was real enthused about having a kid on their squad, but they gave me a chance in their friendship and along the way. And skeet shooting, that was a great time in my life to grow up in. I've been out for a while now, but I promise I'll never travel to the dark side of trap. And I hope one day I'll be in a position where I can rejoin y'all on the field. I think Hal would probably be okay, even though he was kind of serious all the time. I think he'd be okay with a high five now. And good luck tomorrow, and thank you.